Imagine discovering a 7-year-old boy expelled from home and living in extreme poverty who managed to rewire his own mindset to become the most revered president of the United States. Abraham Lincoln discovered this secret, Napoleon Hill systematized it, and you can implement these insights immediately. In the next 25 minutes, you'll uncover the exact 3 secrets Lincoln used to overcome the poverty mentality. Methods that neuroscience in 2025 is validating and that you can apply today. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years studying America's most successful individuals and discovered that Lincoln had overcome the poverty mentality more completely and systematically than any other leader in history. When Hill needed advice for the most difficult decisions, do you know who he would consult in his mind? Abraham Lincoln, his most powerful invisible advisor. But before revealing these revolutionary methods, you need to know the shocking story behind this discovery, because what Lincoln faced will make you completely rethink what impossible means. The Lincoln family lived in crushing poverty, a destitution so severe it would cause physical pain. Lincoln's father, Thomas, was known for his anguished wail, a sound he would make when the hopelessness of poverty consumed him. They lost 3 farms in land disputes. Lincoln's mother died when he was just 9 years old, partly due to the precarious conditions in which they lived. Lincoln described his childhood as a brief and unremarkable life story. He would say that he could sum up his entire formal education in a single sentence, just 1 year of schooling broken up into small fragments. While other children played, Lincoln worked in the fields, split wood, and carried water. Poverty was not just an economic condition for him, it was a mental prison that seemed impossible to escape. Intro end. At 21, Lincoln ventured into various businesses, and each one failed. He ran for the Illinois legislature and lost. He attempted law without ever having studied formally, relying only on a few borrowed books. His first legal cases were complete failures. He ran for Congress and lost again. Lincoln's life seemed like an endless chain of failures, with the mentality of poverty constantly whispering, "You're not destined for anything more than this." Now you'll discover exactly how Lincoln managed to transform these failures into greatness. The answer lies in the methods Napoleon Hill identified and systematized. The first method is what Hill termed a definite purpose. Lincoln didn't begin with a grandiose dream of becoming president. He started with something much simpler and more powerful, the decision that he would never again be a slave to external circumstances. Initially, Lincoln's purpose was simply to survive with dignity. Then it evolved to serving his community. Later, it expanded to preserving the Union. And finally, it transformed into the mission of abolishing slavery. What is fascinating is that Lincoln had this clear purpose even without formal education. Why? Stop for a second. Have you ever stopped to think about why some people manage to escape poverty while others remain trapped forever? Lincoln discovered that the difference wasn't in education, family, money, or luck. The difference was in something very simple that anyone can do today. Because he understood something that science in 2025 is confirming. Poverty can reduce IQ by up to 13 points, but it cannot touch our ability to choose a defined purpose. Current research shows that people in financial scarcity have their cognitive capacity temporarily reduced due to what scientists call mental overload. But Lincoln discovered that when you have a purpose so clear that it becomes a positive obsession, this overload disappears. Your brain stops wasting energy worrying about lack and begins to focus entirely on the solution. Lincoln once wrote, "I am naturally inclined to melancholy." But he transformed this depressive tendency into fuel for his purpose. Each failure, each closed door, each humiliation became more evidence that he needed an even stronger purpose. Have you ever stopped to think how your life would be if each obstacle, instead of discouraging you, gave you more clarity about where you want to go? Imagine yourself applying this today. Marcos, a young man from Sao Paulo, was stuck in a job he hated for 5 years. He applied exactly this method of Lincoln's. First, he defined his purpose, creating an online school to teach programming to low-income people. It seemed impossible. He could barely program, but that clear purpose changed everything. 6 months later, he had left his job and was teaching his first class. Now get ready to discover how Lincoln transformed this theory into practice through a strategy that shocked everyone at the time. He discovered something even more profound, that a clearly defined purpose alone was not sufficient. He needed to amplify his capacity through others. Lincoln discovered the second method that Hill would later term the mastermind principle and self-suggestion. And here comes the part that will shock you. Lincoln did something that seemed like complete madness at the time. Imagine bringing your greatest political rivals onto your team. People who had publicly humiliated you, who had plotted against you. Sounds insane, right? But Lincoln had a brilliant reason for this. Lincoln deliberately surrounded himself with people who were far more intelligent and educated than he was. When he became president, he assembled the famous team of rivals, a cabinet composed of his greatest political adversaries. Edwin Stanton had publicly humiliated him, calling him an uncultured frontiersman. William Seward was considered the most brilliant politician of his generation and was furious about losing the presidential nomination to Lincoln. Salmon Chase was openly conspiring to take Lincoln's place. Any ordinary person would have kept these men at a distance. Lincoln placed them in positions of maximum power in his government. Why did Lincoln do this? Because he understood the principle that Hill would later call coordinating the knowledge and efforts of two or more people, working in harmony towards a common goal. Lincoln knew that his lack of formal education was a disadvantage. So he transformed this disadvantage into a strategy. He would become the conductor of a genius orchestra. But Lincoln didn't stop there. What he discovered next about mental reprogramming would change his perspective forever. He developed what we now call intensive self-suggestion. Every day, Lincoln would read the Bible and Shakespeare out loud, not out of religious devotion or literary passion, but because he believed repeating powerful words could reshape his mind. He memorized entire speeches and would recite them while walking through the fields. Lincoln was essentially rewriting his mental script of poverty. Whenever his inner voice said, "You're not smart enough," he would counter with Shakespeare's words. Each time doubt appeared, he would replace it with the Psalms he had memorized. He was using words as a tool for mental transformation, decades before science understood neuroplasticity. You might be thinking, but I don't have time for this nowadays. Lincoln didn't have time either. He worked from sun to sun, but he transformed dead moments into growth opportunities. While you're complaining in traffic, he would be memorizing a speech. While you're scrolling on Instagram before bed, he was reprogramming his mind. The question is, do you want Lincoln's results or ordinary person results? And this brings us to Lincoln's third method, the most powerful of all. Persistence combined with what Hill termed transforming emotional energy. Lincoln developed a system to transform all pain, all frustration, all negative emotional energy into fuel for his objectives. When Anne Rutledge, his first love, died tragically, Lincoln nearly went mad with grief. His friends were deeply concerned about his mental state. But instead of letting the pain destroy him, Lincoln transformed it into compassion for others who suffered. He channeled the emotional energy of loss into even greater dedication to public service. He turned each business setback into a leadership lesson. Every electoral loss became a masterclass in understanding people and communication. Each public humiliation strengthened his determination. Lincoln cultivated a mindset where no experience went to waste. Every experience, however painful, became raw material for his growth. Think of this as an emotional nuclear reactor. Every time something bad happens, instead of letting the energy disperse into anger or sadness, Lincoln channeled that energy directly into his objectives. It was as if he had discovered the formula for emotional alchemy. Pain plus purpose equals transforming power. Each blow that life gave him made him stronger, not weaker. The difference between Lincoln and other people wasn't that he didn't feel pain. It was that he had learned this emotional alchemy. He systematically transformed negative energy into positive power. Each obstacle became a step, each failure a lesson, each criticism fuel for improvement. Lincoln also practiced what Hill would call applied faith through self-education. He read everything he could find, but not randomly. He studied strategically, always asking, how can this help me better serve my purpose? He transformed his lack of formal education into an advantage. While others were trapped in traditional methods, Lincoln learned directly from life. This transformative mindset remains powerful today. Remember the boy who grew up in a log cabin with barely a year of formal schooling? The very method that propelled Lincoln from poverty to the presidency is now being validated by neuroscience in 2025. Wait, do you understand the significance of this? For the first time in human history, we have scientific evidence confirming that the poor boy from the cabin was right 150 years ago. It's as if Lincoln was a pioneer of human psychology, conducting experiments through his own life experience. And now, our best neuroscientists are confirming he had discovered the secrets they are proving today. Researchers from the Russell Sage Foundation uncovered that what they term scarcity trauma generates specific neural patterns that can be altered through targeted interventions. Modern science validates Lincoln's insight. Poverty is more than a financial condition. It's a mental framework that can be fundamentally transformed. Studies show that people who apply Lincoln's three methods, defined purpose, mastermind, and transmutation, can reverse the neurological effects of a scarcity mindset in just a few weeks. Dr. Sendil Mullainathan from Harvard discovered that when people in poverty receive training in focused attention, essentially Lincoln's defined purpose, their cognitive performance increases dramatically. It's as if the brain can finally operate at its maximum capacity. Entrepreneurs like Oprah Winfrey, who grew up in extreme poverty, apply exactly the same methods Lincoln used. She constantly talks about the importance of having a purpose greater than yourself, surrounding yourself with smarter people, and transforming every painful experience into wisdom. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater, credits his success to what he calls radical failure, essentially the transmutation that Lincoln practiced. Lincoln had to discover these methods on his own, testing them in his own life through trial and error. But we also face a unique challenge that Lincoln didn't have. We live in an era of infinite information that can both accelerate us and paralyze us. Lincoln would read the same books repeatedly until the words became part of him. Today, we consume hundreds of contents daily, but rarely allow any to truly transform us. Lincoln practiced self-suggestion for 1 hour daily. We spend more time on social media, allowing other people to program our minds than programming them ourselves. Lincoln's method is even more powerful today because we have tools that he didn't have. Mentor podcasts, online courses from the best experts, books on any subject instantly available. If Lincoln could overcome the poverty mentality with just a few borrowed books, imagine what you can do with all the resources available today. If Lincoln could overcome the poverty mentality with just a few borrowed books, imagine what you can do with all the resources available today. The question is not whether you have enough resources. The question is whether you have Lincoln's discipline to consistently apply the method that works. Lincoln would wake up at 4 a.m. to study before work. He would walk miles to borrow a book. He would spend hours memorizing speeches that no one besides him would ever hear. Does this dedication seem extreme? Then let me ask a question that Lincoln would ask. Are you willing to do for a few months what others won't do, so you can live the rest of your life in a way that others cannot? This is the difference between those who overcome the poverty mentality and those who remain trapped in it forever. Now that you understand the three pillars that shaped Lincoln, this is the moment that distinguishes dreamers from doers. I'm going to give you the exact action plan. So, how do you put this into practice? First, define your purpose with the same obsessive clarity that Lincoln had. It can't be as vague as being successful. It has to be specific, measurable, and bigger than yourself. Lincoln didn't just want to do well in politics, he wanted to preserve the Union and abolish slavery. What is your version of this? What do you want to create, preserve, or change in the world that is larger than your personal needs? Write this purpose in a clear sentence. Stick it on the wall. Read it every day when you wake up. Ask yourself, will everything I do today bring me closer to or further from this purpose? Lincoln asked himself this question constantly, and that's why he never wasted energy on irrelevant things. Look, I know this might seem too simple to work. Lincoln thought the same thing at first, but here's what he discovered, and it will change your perspective forever. Second, build your own rivals team. Identify the 3 smartest people you know in areas related to your purpose. It could be your boss whom you admire but fear. It could be that colleague who seems to know everything. It could be a mentor you haven't had the courage to approach yet. Now, instead of avoiding these people out of intimidation, deliberately get closer to them. Lincoln offered value before asking for help. He listened more than he spoke. He openly acknowledged when he didn't know something. He transformed his ignorance into genuine curiosity. Do the same. Approach these people not as someone who wants to take advantage, but as someone genuinely interested in learning and contributing. Third, establish your daily 20-minute self-suggestion routine. Lincoln read the Bible and Shakespeare. You can read biographies of people who have achieved what you want to achieve. You can listen to motivational lectures. You can repeat powerful affirmations. The important thing is to be consistent and intentional. Set aside 20 minutes every morning to consciously program your mind. Turn off your phone. Close the door. Focus exclusively on content that reinforces your mindset of abundance and success. Lincoln did this religiously because he knew his mind was his most valuable asset. Treat yours with the same respect. And finally, develop Lincoln's transmutation system. Whenever something goes wrong, and it will go wrong, immediately ask yourself, how can this make me stronger, smarter, or more compassionate? Don't deny the pain or frustration. Feel it completely, but then consciously transform it into fuel for your growth. And here's the most incredible part of all. Lincoln had to discover all of this by himself, through trial and error, failure after failure. You have an advantage that he never had. You already know the complete method that works. The only question is, will you use this advantage or waste it, like most people do? You have an advantage that he never had. You already know the complete method that works. The only question is, will you use this advantage or waste it like most people do? But there's a truth that Lincoln discovered that will change everything. Even strictly following these pillars, you will still face failures. And that's where the true secret lies. Lincoln had more failures by the age of 30 than most people have in their entire lives. But each failure taught him something he needed to become an exceptional leader. He transformed poverty into empathy, rejection into determination, loneliness into self-sufficiency. You can do the same with any challenge you're facing right now. The poverty mentality whispers, you don't have enough. You are not enough. You will never make it. Lincoln's mentality responds, I have a defined purpose, powerful mentors, and the ability to transform any obstacle into an advantage. Each day makes me stronger. You have received exactly what I promised at the beginning. Lincoln's 3 scientific methods: Definite Purpose Method 1, Power of the Mastermind, Method 2, and Transmutation of Energy, Method 3. Each method has been explained, scientifically validated, and made applicable to your life today. Remember, that boy from the log cabin, without formal education, surrounded by extreme poverty, became the most respected president in American history. Not because he was special, but because he applied a specific method to overcome the mentality that limited him. That same method is available to you today, but it only works if you apply it. The difference between those who transform their lives and those who keep dreaming is immediate action. Lincoln's story proves that anyone can overcome the poverty mentality. Science confirms it works. The method is in your hands. The only question that matters now is, when will you start? Today or never again? Commit, Now, write in the comments which of Lincoln's three methods, defined purpose, powerful mentors, or energy transmutation, you're going to start applying today. Don't just think about it. Write your decision. This transforms intention into public commitment. Share this video with someone who needs to overcome their own limitation mindset. And subscribe to the channel because next week I'll reveal the Lincoln 90-Day Protocol, a step-by-step system that applies the three methods specifically to double your income. You'll see real examples of people who went from scarcity mindset to prosperity in exactly 90 days using this sequence.